It has attacked her family.
It picked out Sean. It killed your father.
And haunted her dreams.
When it killed Sean, I knew with absolute certainty it had come for him.
Now, there is one last battle to be fought.
We're heading straight for it. He's gonna hit us!
Lorraine Gary and Michael Caine. Jaws, The Revenge. This time, it's personal. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my rant on the 1987 sequel, Jaws, The Revenge. This time, it's personal. Damn right. The only thing that's personal, though, is my personal disdain, my personal dislike for this piece of shit sequel. Because I don't buy that the shark takes anything personally. In fact, the franchise itself pointed out in Jaws 2 in a line of dialogue that sharks don't take things personally. They don't hold grudges. And the franchise forgot its own advice. Jaws the Revenge is one of those sequels that was rushed into production to hopefully get lucky and make a quick buck, and it didn't do anything but sink the franchise to the bottom of the fucking ocean. And it's just a prime example of why you should not do sequels like this. The franchise was already at the point where it was diminishing returns after Jaws 3, so there was no need to do more, to have another Jaws film, because this was a franchise that was already reaching its boiling point, already reaching the moment where it's at its peak in terms of how much money you can pump out of this franchise. And if you were going to do another one, you would think that you would at least put some more thought into it. But that's not the case with Jaws of Revenge. In fact, there was a studio insider, a guy who worked as a producer for one of the major studios. It might have been Universal. And he had been working in the industry for decades. And he said that the fastest he had ever seen a film get finished from start, from the pre-production phase to production and then to final cut and to a theatrical release, was this movie. This film was in the can and ready to go in 9 months. That's unheard of for a film production at this time. So that just shows you how this film never really was anything other than a cheap, half-assed attempt to con audiences out of their money. And it made some profit. It cost $23 million and it made $51 million worldwide, but it didn't make nearly enough. I think they did a lot of advertising, and that also is incorporated into the budget, which probably makes the profit margin even less. And I don't think it did as well in the US. So it's one of those things where it didn't make that much of a profit at all. And the damage that it did to the franchise and its reputation was devastating and not worth whatever amount of profit that they managed to squeeze out of this film. People think Jaws 3 is the moment where this franchise became a joke. No, Jaws the Revenge is the moment where this franchise completely took a nosedive and it jumped the shark. Now, the film is directed by Joseph Sargent, who was the producer of this film. In fact, I think because of the fact that it was such a fast production, they were like, hey, since you're a producer, do you want to direct it? You've directed before. You did a couple movies before this, like Nightmares and Taking a Pelham 1, 2, 3. Do you want to do Jaws 4? Here's some money. And he was like, sure. And the direction here, it's serviceable. It's so-so. And I would say it's not anything that's particularly egregious. There's some nice underwater photography. Some of the shark attacks are shot well. I like the banana boat scene. He gets a good use out of the setting in the Bahamas. Some of the shots, though, you can tell are really fake, that they shot on a soundstage. And there are a lot of moments here that are a little flat and just don't really have a lot of energy from the directing standpoint. I think that's probably because it was a rush production, one take, and I don't think Joseph Sargent really had his heart in this. He was like, it's money, it's a job, I'm getting paid, and once I get my paycheck, I'm out of here. Like, he checked out before he even started filming. He was just sleepwalking his way through the production. And that's why it's just such a meh, so-so directing job. Because he didn't put any more effort into this than the bare minimum. The screenplay, though, by Michael D. Guzman, that is just the absolute lowest point of this movie. Other than just incredibly stupid, idiotic things like the shark roaring like he's a fucking gorilla from Congo. But other than that kind of stuff, the script is just a total fail on so many different levels. For one, it tries to retcon Jaws 3, which I find incredibly laughable, especially when it comes to what they add in the place of Jaws 3 storyline. Oh, in Jaws 3, there's a bit of a happy ending for the Brodies after everything that they went through. Mike and Sean are alive and they're happy. Martin is still alive and he's having a good retirement with his wife, Ellen. And it just seems like, oh, finally they're able to settle down and the terror is over and they can relax and they can enjoy the rest of their years. Nope. In Jaws of Revenge, it's like, fuck all that. Fuck all that happy ending bullshit. Sean Brody gets killed by a shark early on in the film, and to make matters even more egregious, Martin Brody died off screen of a heart attack because he was so afraid of sharks. The fear killed him. What? So you have that, which is just depressing and just way too bleak for a fourth entry in the series. Just completely unnecessary. And just some really lazy attempt to try to wring some emotion out of the audience. And then you have a really tepid, just terrible love story with Lorraine Gary and her character, Ellen Brody, trying to mac out and get into bed with Michael Caine's character, Hoagie. And it was just, it's the kind of stuff you'd see on Lifetime. It's just a very tepid, just tired, lame attempt at being romantic. And then you've got the subplot involving Mike Brody, and he's a marine biologist, and he's working with a friend of his, who's his co-star. He's the guy who's working alongside him for the scholarship. And so he's got his friend Jake, and they do the most boring research you will ever see on a film. Excuse me, I just got a little bit of indigestion just thinking about this movie some more. Sorry. So you have this whole thing where they're doing research on snails, on like sea snails or some shit. These snails that are underwater and they move very slowly and it's just the most boring, lame bullshit imaginable. And so you have that going on, and then the shark finally comes into the picture because it somehow manages to travel from Amity Island to the Bahamas in no time flat, because apparently it's got superpowers now. It's like fucking Nightcrawler. It can just teleport to a location, or it hitched a ride on the USS Enterprise and it beamed the shark into the Bahamas. Like, what the fuck is this? Like, how the hell is this shark going from Amity Island, beating a bunch of people who are in a plane, to the Bahamas? And why does the shark hold a grudge? You're not following your advice. Sharks don't hold grudges, Mr. Brody. Apparently they do. And the reason why that's even in there in the first place is because the original draft of the screenplay had a voodoo shark. The reason why the shark was dead set on the Brodies is because it was cursed by a voodoo priest. Because there was some person that the Brodies wronged during some development deal or something at Amity Island, and he was pissed off. It was he or she, I don't remember exactly. So they were pissed off, and they contracted a voodoo priest and put a curse on them. and they used a shark as their method of revenge. So that's why the shark is able to travel these incredibly long distances. And why the shark has a grudge against the Brodies. Why the shark takes things personally. It wants all the Brodies dead. It's just like, a voodoo shark? What the fuck is this shit? Come on. So yeah, the shark travels to the Bahamas and stalks after Mike Brody and his friend Jake, and gets a snack on the beach and eats someone on a banana boat, and almost eats Mike's daughter. And this causes Ellen Brody to decide to take things into her own hands and steal a boat, go out to the middle of the ocean, and wait for the shark to come for her so that she can kill it. I mean, her plan, she had no plan. At least Brody had a plan. At least all of that occurred in the first two films, at least they had some semblance of an idea of what they're gonna do. She just stole the boat and was like, fuck this shark, and never really thought things through. Because I doubt that she was like, yeah, I'm gonna stab the shark with the bow of the ship, and that's what's gonna do it. The shark's actually gonna be able to act like a fucking ballerina and get on its fucking fins, jump up in the air, and then I'm gonna hit it with the bow. What is this bullshit? This is fucking stupid. So, and you have this whole drama too that's going on with Mike Brody, where he's lying to his mom about the shark because he doesn't want to worry her, and so he's having to hide things from her, and he's feeling guilty. And the reason why he's trying to hide it from her is because Jake is trying to do some research on the shark. He put a transmitter on it. It doesn't really go anywhere, to be perfectly honest. You have like a bit of a fallout at one point where his wife's like, "How dare you? You knew all along. Your daughter almost got eaten by the shark." And then there's really not a lot of time for the characters to dwell on things, because then bam, Ellen has stolen the boat, and now Mike and Jake and Hoagie decide to fly over in Hoagie's plane and find her. And there's other really just absolutely stupid shit. Like, for some reason, she has flashbacks to scenes she was never in. What are we doing? What is this? So we have a shot where Ellen Brody, while she's hunting for the shark, she has a flashback to Roy Scheider in Jaws, where he's up on the top of the boat and he's saying, "Smile, you son of a..." Like, how the fuck did she have a flashback of that? She wasn't there. And then there's other flashbacks too. Like, she has a flashback to a shot of the shark attacking someone on the banana boat that only people on the banana boat would have seen from that perspective. I just... And then, yeah, the ending with a shark that roars like he's a fucking gorilla from Congo, and hit the shark with the bow of the boat and it explodes. Jake gets eaten by the shark, and he's inside the shark's mouth, and he's getting chomped on hard, and there's blood spraying everywhere, but he somehow survives because the test audience really liked that character, and they didn't want him to die, so then they did some reshoots and had him survive for the theatrical cut, and the only reason why the shark explodes due to indigestion or a bad case of gas is because the audience didn't like the original ending where the shark gets hit by the bow of the ship and it breaks off and the shark falls down in the bottom of the ocean. They thought that looked bad. But the shark exploding for no fucking reason, that looked great. And once again, it's just the same fucking ending as the other previous films. At least with the original ending, it didn't make any sense, but it still made more sense than the shark exploding. There was no dynamite, there was no bombs, there was no air canisters, there was no grenades. There was this transmitter, this like light or battery the shark ate, but there was nothing that had any explosives in it, so there's no reason why the shark would explode. And we already saw the shark explode at the end of Jaws 3. We saw the shark get fried and explode at the end of Jaws 2. We saw the shark explode due to the air tanks at the end of Jaws. So you just have the shark explode again? That's just lame. And just lazy, no thought put into it whatsoever. Oh, fuck it, the shark just blows up. Again. Just pops like a balloon. Fucking Christ. And there's a lot of lines of dialogue in this film where characters mention equipment crapping out. I don't think it's fitting because this movie is crap. This is a crappy film, a crappy sequel, and this script is shit. It tries to retcon Jaws 3 like I mentioned, but just makes things unnecessarily bleak and depressing. The pacing of this is about as slow as the sea snails that Brody and Jake are researching, because the first half of the film, you got a lame shark attack where Sean gets his attacked by the shark and gets his arm bitten off, and then after that it's just Ellen Brody having feelings, having psychic visions for some reason of the shark, which don't make any sense. And the shark winds up in the Bahamas. And then you have this whole really lame Lifetime original movie romance between Ellen Brody and Hoagie. And then you got other family drama going on with Mike and his wife. And then you've got the whole thing with Jake and Mike investigating snails. The shark shows up, and then it attacks some people, and then at that point, it's time to pretty much wrap things up and we end with the shark exploding for no reason. Just like there was no reason for this movie. There was no reason for Jaws the Revenge. So yeah, the directing is nothing special. The writing is woefully bad. And the performances by the cast, they aren't that much better. I mean, other than Lance Guest as Mike Brody, the rest of the cast here is terrible. Lorraine Gary is way out of her league here as one of the main leads. Ellen Brody is a character that I thought worked fine as a supporting role in the first and second Jaws movies, but as a bigger, more main character, this character is not deep enough. This character is not interesting enough. This character isn't charismatic enough. So the film just completely flops when it's trying to focus on her. And it's not just due to the bad writing, but it's also due to the fact that Lorraine Gary has no screen presence. She's sheepish. She's really shy, out of sorts. She definitely seems like she doesn't want to be here, or she's not ready for this. The shoulder pads that her character wears throughout this film are stronger and sturdier and more reliable than she is. When she's supposed to be a badass going after the shark, it was a joke. It was not believable in the slightest. Lance Guest, The Last Starfighter, I mean, he goes from The Last Starfighter to, I think it was a film called, it was like Waiting for a Role, Waiting for Acting. Yeah, it was called Waiting to Act. After he did The Last Starfighter, he did a film called Just the Way You Are, where he was the voice of an answering machine. And in 1985, he was a body snatcher guy in a film called Waiting to Act, which is ironic because that's pretty much what he was doing after Last Starfighter, waiting to act. And then he gets Jaws the Revenge, and that completely puts the absolute nail in the coffin of his career. And then after that, he does a movie called The Wizard of Loneliness. I think it was a TV movie or a direct-to-video film. And then he didn't act in anything for years. This film ate Lance Guest. It ate his career. He deserves so much better after The Last Starfighter. He was so good in that film. And then after that, he was just waiting to act. He got an opportunity with Jaws of Revenge, and it completely destroyed whatever promise any studio or anyone thought that he had left. And it's too bad because he's actually one of the best things about this movie. It's a good performance. I just wish it was in a much better film. And he was given a lot more to do than just look worried and be scared of the shark and so on. And deal with family drama. Then you've got Mario Van Peebles as Jake. I like Mario Van Peebles. I've liked him in a fair amount of things, but he's annoying as hell in this movie. I hated this character. I don't understand why he was a crowd favorite. He was just obnoxious. He was comic relief, but he wasn't funny. I didn't really feel he had good chemistry with Lance Guest. And the fake Jamaican accent he was doing, that got old really quick. And then you've got like Karen Young as Carla Brody, Mike's wife. I didn't think she was that great. I didn't really think that she had the best dynamic with Lance Guest. Some of her line delivery was also really flat. Judith Barsi, who voiced Ducky in Land Before Time, she plays their younger daughter, Thea. I mean, for that kind of role, she was fine. Michael Caine as Hoagie. I know he famously did not accept his Oscar that he won for, I think, Hannah and Her Sisters because of the fact that he was shooting this movie. Uh, and I think he said in a line of, in a quote, he's like, I haven't seen this movie, but I've seen the house that it built. And it's really nice. I love how just open Michael Caine is, just no nonsense. He's not a problem here. He tries. It's Michael Caine. He's still got enough of a presence. I actually wish he was in it more, uh, because his scenes are definitely a lot more tolerable. At least when he's not trying to woo Lorraine Gary. Like when he's just hanging out with the rest of the cast, and it's kind of fun. And when he's trying to fend off the killer shark. Lynn Whitfield plays Louisa, who is Jake's wife. I thought her performance was better than Mario Van Peebles. And then you've got Mitchell Anderson, who plays Sean Brody in the beginning, who gets eaten by the shark. I didn't think he was really that impressive either. And that's really about it in terms of the cast. I mean, Lee Fierro does make a cameo appearance as Miss Kittner from the first Jaws, which is kind of fun to see. The film features a score by Michael Small, and I think the score here is actually pretty good. I'm not going to say it's as good as the scores for Jaws, Jaws 2, or Jaws 3, but it's still an above average score. I think it incorporates John Williams's themes well, has its own original music that I thought was actually pretty high quality for the most part. And overall, I definitely think that that's one of the few bright spots this film has, other than Lance Guest and maybe a couple other sequences, like the shark attack on the banana boat, and maybe Michael Caine. The cinematography by John McPherson, it's there. There's some nice looking shots of the Bahamas, but nothing really that amazing. The editing by Michael Brown, which apparently I guess I got a hold of a time machine at some point in my life, went back in time, edited this movie, then completely mind wiped myself so I would forget that I even edited this, and also so I could not feel the shame of being associated with such a shitty film. But yeah, apparently I edited this movie. I didn't. I'm just kidding. But I, when I saw this film, I was like, edited by Michael Brown. I was like, what the fuck? Really? Man, I sucked. I did a bad job. Really though, yeah, the editing here is actually pretty fucking bad. It looks like it was edited by a shark's mouth. Like they just threw the film footage into a great white's mouth, and whatever came out later in his stomach, they just threw on the screen. Because there's a lot of scenes here that are very choppy, very hacked to pieces, just not very good in terms of the editing. And for a film that has a running time of 90 minutes, it drags so fucking much. It feels like 190 minutes because you're not invested in the story of these characters. I don't give a fuck about the romance between Ellen Brody and Hoagie. I don't care about the family drama with Mike Brody and his wife, about her artwork and any of that bullshit. I don't care about the research they're doing on fucking sea snails. And the whole thing with the shark, that's not that much fun either, because other than maybe a couple kills or couple sequences, there really isn't that many scenes with the shark. And I could see why. I mean, the shark, once again, wasn't working as usual. And this time around in 1987, it looked even faker than it ever did before. And it's just one of those movies where the lasting impression it has is more the what the fuck moments, the worst elements of it. Those are the most memorable things about Jaws the Revenge. The shark roaring, the really just puzzling, stupid scenes, like when the shark attacks a boat and then a shot later the water is full of blood. What the fuck? What happened? Does the shark have gingivitis? What the fuck is this? Why is there so much blood in the water? All it did was bite a boat. If the shark has that bad gum disease, then how the fuck does that shark even eat anyone? Or even do anything? How is that shark even alive? If its gums and its teeth are that bad. Like, what is this? Bullshit. And then the ending where the shark explodes. It's just one of those movies where it was not needed, period. End of discussion. We did not need more Jaws movies. We didn't need Jaws the Revenge. We got it anyway, and we are all worse off for it. Jaws 4 is that problem that we ignored, and it swam up and it bit us in the ass. It's a pile of rancid bait inside the diseased, rotting carcass of a great white shark. It's a great white turd of a movie.